Welcome to the Results Method podcast, where real people achieve real results in the real world. Hosted by accredited sports nutritionist, contest prep coach, and three-time fitness world champion and coach, Alicia Kyrgios, alongside co-host and FMG pro athlete, Sarah Priestley. This podcast is your all-access pass to sustainable transformation. We go beyond quick fixes and one-size-fits-all plans. We break down the principles, structure, and strategies that actually create results. This is the Results Method.
So welcome to the new edition of the Results Method podcast with my beautiful co-host, Sarah Priestley.
Hello, how's it going?
Today we are covering off some of our most frequently asked questions. I'm going to shoot Sarah a handful of ones that I know she constantly gets asked, or that I have people sort of asking in and around about Sarah, which I think is great. And she's going to give me some pretty quick responses to those, and then we're going to flip the tables and she's going to ask me some. And we just thought this would be a really fun way to present what we think and what our thoughts and views and maybe, knowledge is on a couple of areas that are legitimately the same things we get asked frequently.
Let's do this.
All right, Sarah, let's go. How do you get more sleep, Sarah? Because this has been a topic of conversation in a lot of our check-ins. How do you get more sleep? Because you're a sleep beast.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for quality and duration actually is consistency in when you go to sleep and when you wake up. So like every night I try and go to sleep within about a 30-minute window of when I normally do, and then wake up around the same time. And then it's the routine before I go to sleep. So like properly winding down, putting my phone away, don't even sleep with it in my bedroom, dimming the lights. We tend to, recently we've been just watching something on Netflix, but we've actually got a projector, so it's not shooting blue light into your eyes, which is cool.
A good idea.
Yeah, so I would say those are the main things: having that wind down routine, dimming the lights, and then having your room the right temperature as well. And a weird one as well, Justin and I sleep with separate duvets.
I love it. So you don't have to worry about the separate bed. You just have the separate blankets. You're not pulling on each other. Christos and I bought a bed that has the foam where one person can exit the bed or move in it and you can't feel it on the other side. So it's brilliant. It's the best thing we ever did. And honestly, I reckon I'd probably kill him in his sleep if I didn't have it. So I feel you. Okay. So next one for you was how to deal with hunger, especially during prep.
I think the first one is almost just accepting that it's going to be there and preparing yourself that you are going to have some hunger.
Yep.
The next one would be meal timing. So we're having consistent, smaller meals throughout the day rather than just 3 big meals. I think I'm having 6, maybe 7 meals some days. That really helps staying hydrated. And then another one is just staying off food, Instagram.
No food porn.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't help.
No, it does not. And not coming to my house every single time you walk in, almost without fail. Every single time he's preparing, cooking, or has just cooked something, it always smells a joke. And I always think of you. I'm always like, oh, poor Sarah.
Even if it's just rice, he cooks it with bone broth and it smells.
It smells amazing. I know. I feel you. Sorry. So how to not compare yourself, and you're really great at this. You're one of my best athletes. You do not. And I never have a conversation with you ever about this because you just don't do it. So what are your tips and advice, and how do you approach that? Because you're an absolute jet at it.
Yeah, I think the first thing is I just compare my progress to my previous progress. So I'm comparing my check-in photos to my previous check-in photos, or the same time or the same X amount of weeks out from last time I competed. I'm not comparing that to someone else who's also 6 weeks out or 2 weeks out. And I think if you find yourself looking at people's stories or watching people's Instagram, just put them on mute. You don't have to unfollow them. You can just mute them. And if you ever have a moment of doubt or you're thinking something, just talk to your coach.
100%.
They'll talk you out of it.
Because then we can either talk you off the ledge, slap you, take the crack pipe out of your hand, all those fun things.
And I think as well, just realizing what they're doing is out of your control. So there's no point in focusing on it. Focus on what you can do, and that's all you can do, really.
And oftentimes too, you have such a distorted view at that point in time. You're not rational. It can be a really dysmorphic period. So I always say to everyone, don't hang on to it, because you're going to look back at photos of that moment and be like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I remember thinking this, and I'm so shredded. You will have those moments. So I've even had them. So it's just don't look at anyone else.
Yes.
So backing on from that, because I think this is such a relevant segue, how did you become so disciplined would probably be something else that people always ask me about you, because you are an executor and you don't compare yourself. And that really does take a really high level of discipline. And so, it is something people always ask me, because you went from green to prepping like a pro almost straight away. And that's not common.
Yeah, I think like the discipline in terms of just general fitness and the habits that I have now for health and those sorts of things were just built from layering on small habits. So it was like getting the guidance from a coach and just building upon those habits.
Yeah.
And I think I probably went into it with an approach where I was like, okay, I'm going to like focus on my nutrition, my sleep, my steps, all these things. And it seemed like so much at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to focus on this for 90 days and like get these habits down. And then that really worked. And then you can layer on more things and more things and more things. And I think part of being disciplined, or what people perceive as me being disciplined, is honestly just being organized. Like yesterday I was on the road all day, so I just packed my food and brought that with me. Like I would say that's being organized rather than disciplined almost.
I tend to agree with that. And I think also too, it's a really good structure that you've been consistently able to repeat. So even in moments where you've got to wing it, you've got that structure that just follows you, right? So I just think that sets you up for success. It's so good. Now, something else I've always had people talk to me about with you, and it was the reason that I was always driving people to your page and being like, if you want to do this properly, just go follow Sarah, for crying out loud. She's a jet. And it's how you were able to show what you do, how you do it, and also you as a person so well in your posting. And so I can remember when you had next to no followers at all, you still turned up the same way you do now with traction. So you've never changed. You've always been this consistent, diligent, well-disciplined poster, but the way you post and the way you show up on social media is powerful. And people are scared of that at first. So something people always say to me is, how the hell does she do it? And how is she confident to just get up and speak and do those things and post the way she does? And I'm like, well, she's just always done it. So I think that helps. But she started and didn't like step away from it, right? But you tell people how you overcame the fear of posting.
Yeah, it was really scary to start with. I was at the time working in construction project management, and I was just kind of starting my fitness journey. I was like, I don't want anyone from work or anyone in my family to see what I'm doing. Yeah, I was like so embarrassed. So I started a separate Instagram. I wasn't really posting on my personal Instagram that much anyways. Started a separate Instagram, and I just started documenting the process. So I wasn't even posting myself or my check-in photos. I was posting like my food, or, that I was going for a walk, or just like things that you couldn't see me. And then slowly I built the confidence to show up and start doing like voiceover videos, and I felt so silly doing it. And then once I got used to doing voiceovers, I started talking to the camera and just slowly built up that habit and the confidence over time. And I think once I realized that, most people are actually out there to support you. Like, you start getting these messages that you're inspiring other people, which is just blows my mind, and it still does. And you never really know the impact that you're having. And I think once you start seeing that impact, like, it makes you motivated to keep posting more and keep doing more. So I think it's just about showing up and building that confidence in a way that feels comfortable to start with.
And I think for me, when I think about it, I always just get on and talk with the viewpoint that I'm talking to friends. I'm just turning up as me, and I'm just gonna, like, I even say it sometimes to my students in tutorials, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you just got a Coach Ellie moment, because it'll just be, I forget where I am and I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to one of my clients, or I'm talking, to someone in my family, because you all get the same version of me. Because if you turn up like yourself, and this is why Sarah's been so successful in my eyes, she turned up as herself from day one and just got better at showing even more of herself. She didn't turn up as anything else or someone she's not. And I think that's actually the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that's what people are afraid of at first. It's like, oh, what if people don't like me? And I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Just find your following, find your tribe, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think something else that brings me a lot of comfort is knowing that, like, if someone doesn't like what you post, or they're not interested in it, they're just going to swipe past.
Exactly. Or unfollow.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye, Felicia.
And there's no damage done. And if people like what they see, then they're going to follow you. They're going to support you.
Yeah,
so,
true. Well, thank you very much. They were great answers. I love being able to ask some of those, because they're ones that people ask me all the time about you. But we ran through, like, what are the ones that happen with me, and I'm going to let you hit me.
Yes. So the first one, and actually something that I always wonder as well when I see how much you're doing, is how do you fit it all in?
I never sleep. And I have a bot, an alley bot, and there's 3 of me. You guys just don't ever see me in one. You don't ever see all of us in one place at one time. No, honestly, I don't would be the answer. Not perfectly anyway. I would say there's a big difference between fitting it in and prioritizing what matters, right? And that's definitely what I'm really great at. I'm really great at having non-negotiables and being like, okay, cool. These are the things that matter. And I have seasons for things, right? So if I'm not in prep and I'm not worried about a stage, then there's less time being spent on the things that go towards that, right? But I still prioritize health and fitness and overall wellness. So I've got my basics in a step count for general movement. I've got my basics with food and I still, track things. And then I've got my prioritized work tasks on any given day. So that really does fluctuate throughout the week. And then everything else kind of fits in and around it. I systemize absolutely everything that I can. I'd be absolutely lost if I didn't. I'm a simple person with repeatable meals. I have similar routines. I have same training timeframes in the day. It's a little bit flexible if the kids go, take me on a landslide sideways, which definitely happens. But what I remove is decision fatigue. So I find that what kills people is not a lack of time, it's a lack of consistency. So wherever I can, there's as much systemization and consistency as possible, but I'm also human and I don't hold myself to this crazy unrealistic expectation of what I can do either. And I don't beat myself up if a day doesn't go perfect. I just figure out where the hell I'm going to find another 2 hours on another day and I cram something in. But yeah, that's it. It's not perfection at all, ever. And I just show up and show everyone all the messy shit as much as I do the good shit because I think that's what's real.
100%. I think another thing I've noticed about you as well through spending more time with you is how you prioritize your family too. You've always got your Saturday morning markets. You've got these rituals that you have with your family that fits it in with everything else that you've got going on.
That's very true. And the kids that you see are a part of everything from, training in the morning and I'm breastfeeding in between sets when they're really young, or they're still in there. You see George and Sophia coming in and out all the time, even in our standard sessions when you join me on them. So it's it's about bridging the two worlds and making it fit, wherever I can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And next one is, how do you talk about food with the kids and what do they eat?
This is a great question because we have some funny conversations and George can tell you all, okay, so don't laugh, but water is a macronutrient, right? So staying hydrated is the thing. And George will pleasantly highlight to you when you are in the shower, if you actually pee in front of the guy, whether or not you're hydrated enough. And I got this lecture last night actually about the fact that, Mummy, you haven't had enough water. You must be thirsty. Are you thirsty? I went, what are you talking about? And he goes, you do not have white wee. So look, we educate all the way through. There is no good or bad food language. The kids have a little bit of everything in moderation, right? That's where most issues start. And I'm not here for that. My kids have also never heard either of us talk negatively about ourselves in any situation too. So I think the two are combined, self-acceptance, self-worth and, body dysmorphia are largely linked to and associated with the relationship you have with food. So we talk about food being fuel. We talk about, what the building blocks for growth are. And, if you want to become big, then we've got to prioritize protein and we anchor protein at every meal. And they know that. They also know there's a lot of fun ways you can get protein. So it's not just, chicken and broccoli in this house, that's for sure. And they also know, and we normalize that food is there as fuel. Yes, it has a purpose. Yes, but it's also to enjoy it. So we have big moments where they're on the bench and they're cooking food with us and they're preparing things. And, they absolutely have habits and we focus more on habits than anything that are ingrained like we do. So there's regular food times, there's regular, meal options. There is definitely even regular soul foods that get brought in at various times, right? So I would say it's not really about control. It's about building knowledge, awareness, and also a healthy relationship towards food long term. And the conversations that we try to have are all around that and reinforced by positive language about ourselves and what it gives us, right? So other than him beating me up about my non-white we have really positive conversations about everything. But yeah, that's probably what I would say has been important to me, and especially as a mother of daughters, it's been very important. Not that men don't go through it, because they do, but it's been really important to establish very early on a relationship that's positive with food, but dialogue that's really positive with self, right? So I am always telling Sophia how beautiful she is and how strong she is and how capable she is. It's not about minimizing or shrinking. It's her understanding her worth and her space, and taking up space is important. And, I just really try to encourage it for all of them. And I think it does start with how we connect to these things, both food and self.
Yeah, I love that so much. And the next one is such a common one and a big myth. Do I have to eat carbs?
Oh my God, the amount of women that come to me and they're like, you've just given me 150 grams of carbs. Now, guys, 150 grams of carbs is pretty much low carb. But they're freaking out thinking I've just fueled them like an endurance athlete about to do an ultra marathon on like 700 grams. I'm like, settle down, Susan. It's fine. You won't get fat. So long and skinny of it is, no, you don't have to eat carbs. But if performance, recovery, and the way you look, your physique matter to you, you probably should. I'm going to throw that out there. Carbs are our primary fuel source, right? And the body needs it. So it's like, especially if you're doing anything that is any kind of endurance or high intensity, you're definitely going to need it. They support glycogen stores, but they also support recovery, training, performance. It directly impacts your ability to do training volume and progressive loading in your output. So, you think muscle glycogen equals ATP production equals training performance. That's your formula. You don't hear about, high intensity anything on fat stores. So I would be saying low carb and or no carb can work for fat loss if it is controlled within caloric ranges. So you're not going over the caloric ranges, right? But it is not optimal for muscle retention or for performance. So if those things matter to you, don't cut the carbs out. It's consistently shown in all of the literature that you should not be cutting the carbs out. And I would be strongly suggesting that metabolic flexibility is what you want to aim for. Your body's ability to function on both carbs and fat sources as fuel sources.
And they taste good.
My God, who doesn't want bread? I always come back to that. If you are scared of that, then yeah, we need some reprogramming. Yeah.
Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, how did you cope with the injury during pregnancy?
Oh my God. I had a couple of moments where I wasn't sure I would. Let's be real about that. I think I had a breakdown in the obstetrician's appointment at probably about month 4 or 5. I'm going, how the hell am I going to get through another 4 or 5 months of this, right? So I would say what happened was I adjusted my expectations of myself, of that season of life, of where I was at the fact that there was nothing I could do. I had to prioritize the baby's health, and just manage what I could, right? So I didn't adjust my effort though. My effort on rehab, my effort on turning up for myself, my effort on ensuring my mental health stayed intact by doing what I could do, which looked like, and because you used to come with me, walking, because that's all I could do in the pool to start with, was just, okay, cool. I can't walk further than 10 meters. Well, I'm not going to not walk. I'll get my steps in for sure. I'm just going to go do them in the pool. That was my attitude. So it was like, okay, my expectations used to be an hour-long walk in the morning with the dogs before I would do, training and everything else. And it became, cool, let's just get to the gym and do 45 minutes of walking in the pool, because that's something, So my effort never changed. I trained how and what I could, not what I wanted, which is a very different thing. And I really focused on, just recoverability, my movement patterns, managing pain, and whatever we could do to progress me at each point in time. And by the end of the pregnancy, when normally you'd probably be scaling back on things, I was ramping up because I was actually getting, because of the position of the baby, and it was fixing things a little bit in the back, and I still had all this crazy listing, but I was getting more capacity and more access. And I went from walking to actually doing freestyle, and from freestyle, where it would be freestyle, to walking, freestyle 25 meters, then walking 25 meters and alternating, to you and I doing a whole kilometer to 1.5 kilometers at my most highest output day, which was like the week before I gave birth. I just managed expectations is probably the long and the short of it. But it wasn't easy, and I definitely had my moments. Get you back up. Okay, last two.
All right. I'm sure you get this every single season and probably every show you go to, but will you ever compete again?
I reckon I probably get asked this at least every week or every other week a couple of times. If Pauline ever says I can actually do bikini athletic, yeah. No, look, I would say never. I would say right now it's just not aligned for me. I'm rehabbing back, obviously, from such a big injury and such big downtime. And I've lost, for everyone listening at home, I think about 5 kilos of muscle mass. So yes, I've been training for 2 decades though. So will that come back quite quickly once my movement pattern is reestablished and I'm actually progressively loading? Yes, I would say so. I'm not worried about it. I actually don't mind being a little bit smaller for a short period of time. It's weird, but it feels feminine, and I feel feminine at the moment, if that makes any sense at all. I'm living in this mum era where there's oxytocin and all the good vibes of being mum life, and I just feel really earthy feminine right now. I miss feeling strong. I'm not going to lie about that. And competing for me requires a very different level of focus, time, energy, trade-offs, right? And when I'm in it, man. I am like laser focused. There's no deviations. And I just feel like at the moment I'm probably loving a little bit of the earthy, chilled, motherly vibes that I don't know that I'd be willing to give up the warm moments with my family to get, because I become like Terminator freaking locked on when I'm in a prep. I just don't know if I'm ready to switch that gear yet. So it's not that it's not a forever thing, but it's just not right now. If I'm going to do it, it's done. I'm 150% girl, not 100%. So it's like, I got to be able to dial in, not half in, but all in, right? And the other thing is, I really want to set myself up in this rehab this year to be functionally fit and functionally strong. And I want to do this triathlon. And I feel like that's going to feed really well into me being able to recover and grow back and move back into potentially a competing pathway for next year, which, as I said, Pauline, maybe I will be beautiful bikini athletic by then. I jest because I don't know that my physique is ever actually going to have that shape, and I am very much naturally suited to fitness. But I'm not willing to take gear, and I'll throw that out there right now. I'm not willing to take gear. I'm not willing to be massive. I don't want to be massive. I look at the size of some of the fitness girls now and I'm like, credit to you. I know how hard it was for you to get that. I personally don't want to look like that. And I personally don't want to get that big. And I'm personally not inspired by it. I can respect it, deep respect, but I'm not inspired to go look like that. So I think you just got to, take that on board too, right? And if the landscape in the categories have shifted like that, then I don't know. That's why I say never. I'm super competitive at heart. I'm a journeyman. I love the journey. I love the discipline. I love the focus. I will absolutely throw myself back into that period at some point for sure. Whether or not a stage comes out the back end of it will just be dictated by whether or not I feel like it aligns for me with where I want to be from a health and from a physique perspective when the time comes. So
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll see. Pauline.
Yes.
I'll just keep tapping on it. Bikini athletic, please.
All right. And last question. What is the best training split for muscle growth?
Oh, this is a great question. And I always get asked this. And I always say, hey, look, it is one that you can be consistent with, one that you can recover from. It is one that you can progress in, week out, right? So, and I argue this with people all the time. Doesn't need to be one where you're changing your exercises and following different shit every week. Absolutely not. It is one where, and if we're talking about from an evidence perspective, you can train every single muscle group twice a week. You can train it consistently, that you are taking it to progressive overload week to week, and that you are hitting volume being king, at least 10 to 20 sets per muscle per week, well fueled for recovery and muscle adaptation, because this is the other thing. It's not just about what you do in the gym, it's what you actually do with your fueling as well, right? And I think people often miss that mark. They'll go all in on training, or they'll go all in on nutrition, and they forget that they're a married couple. They go together, right? So you've got to always be thinking, okay, am I progressively overloading? Yes. And am I fueling for physiological adaptation? So it is a joint thing. It's, as simple as knowing that if I am able to still squeeze juice every week out of what I'm doing in this movement pattern, then you don't need to change the movement pattern. You don't need to change the exercise selection or the program just yet, right? You want to squeeze the juice out until there is absolutely nothing left, and then it's time to change. Look, if total volume and intensity are appropriate, pretty much any split works. That simple.
Yeah, and I think like some of the best results I've had working with you has been on the same program for like 6 months, because we're still progressing. We're we're fueling properly, and we're getting that progressive overload, and that's where we've seen the biggest changes.
And that sort of scares a lot of people. I get a lot of people go, when is this phase up? And I'm like, you've been in it for 30 days. Like, you've only just got good at moving that way. Like, we've only just nailed execution and the pattern. Now let's actually see what we can do with this bitch, right? Like, now let's actually send it. Like, we're only just getting to that place. But people get bored. And I think boredom comes because they haven't learned how to challenge themselves. So when you and I were doing that same program for 6 months, that's because every single session we walked into was like, right, what are we focused on? Where are we going? What did we do last week? How are we feeling? Where's the body sitting? Okay, cool. Let's now send this lift, and that lift, or let's increase load there, work on tempo here and add some reps there. Like, we were progressively loading across a variety of methods to progressively load for the entire 6 months. And it meant that we had no injury. We had, incredible gains in quite a short space of time. And we had, not this period where we were trying to master a new movement pattern or exercise selection all over again, which to me is lost time. So
exactly.
I think that's where people go wrong. I think you got to keep it simple. The basics are often underrated, I should say, and, overlooked. And the basics done really well, over time with progressive load as a focus, once form is absolutely mastered, is where you're going to pick up the best gains.
And it's such a good feeling as well when you feel like you're nailing the exercises, you're nailing your fueling, you're recovered, you're ready to go for the next session.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, I think that probably covers off most of it. There's probably a ton more questions we get frequently. And I guess what I would love, and I'll throw it out to all of you in the audience, send us some questions. Maybe comment below. Let us know if there's anything you've always wondered or that you want to throw our way, because honestly, there's heaps that we could cover off, because we'd love to hear them. And also, again, as always, if you have enjoyed our episode, found anything useful, think that there are people that could benefit from it, please share, like, subscribe, and maybe follow our pages. Sarah, do you want to tell everyone where they can find us?
Yep, at Alicia Kyrgios on Instagram, or at Sarah_Bikini Pro on Instagram.
2 best places on the planet. All right, guys, stay tuned for whether or not Pauline lets me into Bikini Athletic for later.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
That's it for today's episode of the Results Method podcast. If you found value, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to level up.